Hi there, I'm Phil the Practical Gardener. This particular tip is on using raised gardens to improve your garden. I'm a great fan of raised gardens, as you can see. I've got a whole range of them around my property. In fact, almost all of my gardens are raised in some way or another. Some not necessarily obvious to the casual observer. In this tip, I'll firstly cover the benefits that you can gain from raised gardens, and secondly I'll discuss some of the main methods of construction and also a few tips on how to make them. If you raise the bed at least 200 millimeters or 8 inches above the ground, the elevation will ensure good aeration and drainage, pretty much negating several problems relating to the soil and to root development. Most garden plants, such as herbaceous flowers and vegetables, are shallow rooted, primarily feeding from areas close to the surface. Roots require ample oxygen to take up water and nutrients. Raised gardens are the simplest way to achieve the good aeration that allows this. Although it isn't a silver bullet for garden success, it is often a key component. The gardens will be easier to manage, especially for someone like me who has a back problem. I usually kneel on the adjacent ground and tend the garden. Where I have beds of greater height, the capping actually provides somewhere for me to sit while gardening. Walking on the beds will be virtually eliminated, preventing the compaction that destroys soil structure and damages roots. Compacted roots are also hard to cultivate. Soil that hasn't been trodden on is usually friable with good soil crumb structure. My vegetable garden beds are a little bit too wide to reach across at 2.5 metres or 8 foot. However, by choosing the crops I grow in the middle and reaching across with a hoe, I seldom need to walk on the beds. The edges of the garden are simple to manage, and there is less risk of weeds creeping into the bed from surrounding areas. As you can see with these ornamental gardens that simply have a thrown up edge, I have an ornamental mowing strip that prevents lawn weeds from creeping into the garden. Flowering weeds will be displayed to best advantage, closer to the eye. This is particularly useful with small ornamentals, which can easily be hidden from view when at ground level. Raised gardens around patios and terraces provide a sense of immersion in the garden. A few general notes about preparation. It is vital that you eliminate all perennial weeds before constructing the beds, as they will be impossible to remove later and will use the beds as a refuge. Annual weeds aren't so much of a problem. When planning the beds, the overall width should be no more than 1.2 metres or 4 foot, depending on how far you can reach from each side. A raised garden against a wall or boundary fence needs to be narrower, as you will only be able to reach from one side. The ground should be level to make the beds easier to construct, and they will be more aesthetically pleasing. I had a gentle slope where my vegetable beds were planned. I levelled it before I started constructing them. Regarding construction methods, there are various modular systems available from garden shops, either made from galvanised steel or timber. They come in various sizes, upward from 20 centimetres or 8 inches. A higher bed is easier to manage without having to bend over. However, they can be harder and more expensive to fill with soil, although you can put bulk organic matter, even branches, at the bottom, with only 20 to 30 centimetres or 8 to 12 inches of topsoil on top. If you decide to construct your own bed, there are several main options. Wood. You will need to use wood that is durable in the ground. Retaining wall timber is typically 200 by 50 millimetre, 8 by 2 inches or a little narrower. If you plan to stack them several high, you should select tongue and groove timber for greater stability and to ensure that soil and weeds can't migrate through the gaps. If you use pegs or posts to secure the structure, preferably put them on the inside to make maintenance easier. Putting a layer of thick plastic between the wood and the soil may prolong the life of the timber. This is recommended if the timber has been pressure or chemical treated. If you put a wooden cap on top of the wall, it will have greater stability and provide somewhere to sit while gardening. However, the gap between the wood and soil and under the capping may be a haven for snails. Metal. This has the great advantage of durability. Galvanised steel, which is the usual option, will last for decades, even in direct contact with garden soil. Some form of corrugation is needed to create strength. However, this is usually how steel is produced. You have two main options. You can make your own metal bed out of lengths of roofing steel. In this case, you need to create a basic structure. usually out of wooden pegs, that will eventually decay, however they can be replaced. Be careful to ensure that the corners of the steel in particular don't cause injury. A more simple and still affordable option is prefabricated beds. These come in kit set form and are easy to assemble. The ones I've seen have curved corners, which provides great strength. The disadvantage to me is that the smaller ones have a waste space between the beds because of the curve. This also makes it harder to sow your vegetables in rows. This won't be a problem if you're planting randomly or using the square foot gardening concept. Masonry. The most common option is concrete blocks, or cinder or breeze blocks. Although these can be quite steady if freestanding, mortaring them into place, as I have done, will not only ensure stability, but will greatly reduce penetration by weeds or soil. I painted the inside of my walls with a waterproofing compound to prevent moisture seeping to the outside and enabling the growth of moulds and moss. As with wooden walls, a capping provides a useful place to sit and makes the wall more attractive. In my courtyard, which is my outdoor living area, for a more attractive finish, I plastered and painted the wall. This provides a nice Mediterranean finish. Soil in several of my gardens I've simply sloped and tapered up the edges of the bed. It can be surprisingly stable. As with the other systems, 20 centimetres or 8 inches is enough to gain the most benefit. To some degree you'll need to keep throwing the edges up during cultivation. However, this is quite easily done while you are weeding the bed. If you use this system in your vegetable garden, an advantage of using it is that the beds can be collapsed and reformed into whatever configuration that you desire. I'm interested in your comments on this video, so feel free to put them down below. I'll check them and reply. Although it wasn't my original plan, I now intend to produce a tip about construction of wooden raised beds. So be sure to subscribe and also to put a thumbs up to this tip so you don't miss out on further tips.